relax and do the song again.
Flow master setting the pace, generating flows, it's a brand new space. From manual to magic, I redefine. Business processes smoother, yeah, you know it's my time.
Oh, that magic music, Tim, the Flow Master.
Oh man, it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
That's awesome. Okay, so for those who've seen the first video where we covered off the admin features, this one we're now going to cover off the flow features, and Tim will be presenting these. So if you don't know us, we're the boys from Queensland in Australia, Daryl and Tim, and we're presenting today the Summer 25 Salesforce release features, and we're concentrating on the features for flow. And these will be the ones that Tim's going to cover for us. So the improvements to the debug panel and the whole debug process, the component width and alignment, and once you've done that, how you can preview what it looks like on large, medium, and small screens, the visual picker and choices, how you can add icons into there, the canvas cards, they've changed size and capability a little bit, the time data type, and the new user interface for creating flow from setup. So, Tim, the floor is yours. Let's see the Flow Master in action rather than just hearing the song.
Mate, that sounds like a plan. So what I'll do first, I'll just quickly share up my screen. Here we go. Something I noticed actually, and I'm going to raise it again here. With your, am I? Hang on. Yes, I am. The approvals app that you talked about last time, it had a little bit of a flow element, and I thought I'd quickly address that. It's another ability to create flow from outside the setup. That's just something interesting that I noticed, and I didn't. This is off script completely, but I just thought, isn't that interesting? And I think it was the last point on that list you just showed, Daryl, was the ability to have the new create new flow wizard in the setup menu. So previously in the last release, what you could do is you could go to the automation app, which was the original way to create flows outside of setup for the first time a couple of releases ago. You could go in here and you could go new, and you were granted this beautiful new, once it loads, ability to create flows through a new wizard. We could create a new screen flow in a single click rather than, start from start from scratch, then
or choose a template. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, so we bypassed all of that, which was great. Now in Summer 25, you can use that same flow wizard in setup. So Daryl, as far as I'm aware, there is no way now to access the legacy, let's call it, Flow Builder new screen. Is there? That's it. It's gone completely.
Yep.
Wow.
RIP.
End of an era. Crazy. Anyway, there we go. We can set up the new flows from within setup using the new wizard as well. For those of us who are still learning to go through the automation app, I'm a setup man through and through. I think I always will be. It's going to be very hard to undo that. Anyway, so that is creating a new flow through the new UI from the setup menu as opposed to just through the automation app. Now, the next thing.
Oh, yeah, yes. I hear about this debug panel as improvements, and I think Mr. White has highlighted some of these. Maybe you can show us what he's talking about.
Oh, mate, it is about time we get a fresh, new experience when it comes to debugging flows. This has been a difficult one for me personally, I must admit. I've got some very, very, very complex flows that I'm working on for a couple of clients at the moment, and they're not, well, up until recently, we were not running a preview environment. So I had to go from looking at this, which is just beautiful, chef's kiss, right, to using the old one. And it is a struggle. Once you get used to this, let me tell you, don't get used to this unless you're okay to go back, because it is a big one. This is massive, okay? For starters, you ready? Now that more of the screen. I'm sounding sarcastic. That's not. This is no small issue. When you're working with flows that have pages and pages and pages of debug logs in here, especially with third-party Apex actions and whatnot that send and receive and do all sorts of different bits and pieces. This is incredible. the way that it's able to break it down into these little cards as well, and you can see the individual details and expand all and collapse all, go down to where you need to go. You can search as well. I'm so used to just, Command F or Control F for Windows people and searching for the name of the element or the name of the Apex action that I'm trying to find. Now I don't have to. There's a native search bar here, which is just amazing. This is huge. It's really, really huge.
And the ability to collapse those things so that you only see the detail that you want, I think is really important, because before you sort of got the whole lot and you only wanted the bit. Maybe you only wanted to dig into the very first get records and see whether or not you actually got any records. So now you can actually go there really quick and open that bit up and have a look and say, oh, yes, okay, so I've got some records. So the problem must be further down. Yeah.
That's right.
And look, that screen real estate is really important, as you say. When there's a lot of text returned in the debugger, that's really important to have that extra space.
That's right. That's right. This flow is probably not a great example of that, but I'm sure if you're the kind of person that's going to get excited about this because you've experienced some of these massive flows with the massive debug logs, this is an absolute game changer. And you can also, if you want, copy to clipboard with a single click. There you go. That one's handy as well. If you need to share things around and go, hey, who changed the flow? Now it does this, print, and it's there, whatever else you need to do. So there's a lot more functionality. It really does bring a whole new. This is not just a lick of paint. I know maybe at first you might sort of potentially see it that way. It does have a lot more functionality that we didn't have in the past. That's going to make debugging, especially complex flows, a lot easier. Yeah.
And I also like the way that they're on individual cards, so that each bit, it's quite easy to see the separation between different parts. Whereas before, it got in a big complex flow, it got really hard to keep track of, well, where am I at and which bit does that belong to?
100%. And I think this is something that we're really seeing flow in general evolve and become a lot better at. Is it started where it started as Cloudflow Designer. It's kind of grown and grown and grown. And the problem with growing without managing it is you've got an entire debug log in a single thing, and it's very difficult to see. Same, by the way, this is not a feature that we had on the list to talk about, but I'll briefly touch on it. The send email component has changed quite a bit.
Yes.
And that one we've spoken about in the past, and there's been some not gripes so much, but some questions that we had around. Okay, we can have a comma separated list of IDs, but not a collection. Why not? Now it's there. But rather than just adding and the properties panel just getting longer and longer, now it's segmented into, I think it's receiver, sender, and body of email that you can, again, collapse and expand. So we're really seeing flow as a whole be overhauled. New features are coming in, but they're also being, it's visually easier to see when the big things, make the big things easier to manage by visually segmenting them is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Talking about visual changes, Tim, what about component width and alignment?
Mate, I have
screen flows.
I have a few. I'm about to with one flow. This is a passion project, this next one that I've got. Get ready. So there's a couple of bits and pieces that I'm going to talk about kind of all at once, and that is the width and alignment pieces, the ability to preview on small, medium, or large screens, in other words, phones, tablets, and desktops is essentially what they want to talk about. Canvas cards, we can briefly talk about even now on this flow. That's without spoiling too much about my masterpiece. Genuinely, this is something that I'm very, very excited about.
I can hear that song coming on again.
Oh, mate, let me tell you. So, look, one of the things that we'll talk briefly about here, if I go edit flow, this does not look the same. Does it? This is now like all the different elements on a canvas. We're not seeing squares with text off to the side. I think it was off to the side. Gee, I'm so used to this already now. I've already forgotten what the old flow looked like. They're now rectangles. They're now cards. Again, everything's sort of visually, hierarchically, visually easier to see now. So initially, I'll be honest with you. Initially, when I first saw this, I was like, "Oh, that's why do that? It's taking up more space." And then I realized, hang on a second, it's grouping things together. Something else you won't notice that I eventually did after I sort of got used to it a bit and started appreciating this change for what it is. The background is now gray, no longer white, less damaging to your eyes. But the cards are white, so they stand out and apart from the gray. That's such a small change, but one that I genuinely really, really appreciate. So you're able to see everything related to that element together where it needs to be on one card. You can mouse over, excuse me, on a card and see more information, such as the description on it, because I'm very, very good and I added a description to that one. Good boy. And then we can do things to this particular card as well. So if I want to copy this and paste it somewhere else, I can, or cut it and delete it, I can, just using the 3 dots, which is a pretty universal, menu icon that I think we're all quite used to. So it is one that took me a little bit to really appreciate what's been done here and the value that it adds. But I personally now I really, really love it. I went back to the old flow builder. It's just not the same.
And you can zoom too, Tim, of course.
Oh, that's right. Whoa, hang on, I zoomed the wrong way. Look at that. You can hold down in my case, it's Command and Scroll. On Windows, did you say it was Windows and Scroll?
Just the Windows key. Yep.
There you go. So you got a lot more. You can zoom in and out. And there was what was the other one? I've totally forgotten. No, sorry. If I had a trackpad, if I was on a laptop, you can also pinch to zoom as well, I believe.
Oh.
And on a touch screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, Flow's builders. We think it's good, right? And then every release it just gets like so much better. Anyway, I'm gonna calm down a little bit. Let's play a game. You down to play a game?
Yeah, let's go.
Beautiful. Let's play a game. I'm not sure, Daryl. Is that version 1 or version 2? It's version 1. I'm not sure, Daryl, if you are familiar with The Legend of Zelda. Are you familiar with The Legend of Zelda game
I'm
series?
not. No.
Oh, mate. All right. Quick background, right? I have been getting way too much into these older Legend of Zelda games recently, just reliving my childhood. Something about having a 3-month-old, I think, has really sort of set me back to my roots. There was a game that came out in the early 90s, I think it was 93, called The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. It came out for the original Game Boy. The original Game Boy was basically a black and white screen, had no color, right? And then it was re-released, I think in 98, it was called Link's Awakening DX or Deluxe. What was different about it? They added color, okay? There's a dungeon, stick with me. There's a dungeon in that game called the Color Dungeon that was like an extra feature that they added to the game where you could basically get a new armor set, either blue or red, depending on if you wanted to have extra offensive power or extra defensive power. That's all you need to know. Let's have a look at this flow. Cool. This is what that dungeon looked like, more or less. So the first thing you do when you walk into this dungeon is you walk up to these 2 skeleton-looking dudes and you speak to one of them. And he says, our clothes are never the same. If I'm blue, he's red. If he's red, I'm blue. The purpose of that was basically somebody could have got the new game working on the old console. You wouldn't be able to see the difference. So this is a way of testing that somebody was actually running it on the right console and not doing anything they shouldn't be doing. So we're here. We're talking to this little blue skeleton. I'm going to select, do I want red for power? It's a power icon. Or do I want blue for defensive, which is shield? I'm going to get this wrong for the first time. I'm going to click on red. That's red, right? I'm going to click on next. I'm going to say, oh no, game over. I've been beaten at... What's that? Is that a time variable that I've forgotten to format and just looks not so great, but it's a time variable? That's new. That's really, really new. Let's have a look. So that was something else that's come to Flow in Summer 25 is the ability to, if I go new resource and we go variable and I select time, we now have a time variable. Wow. So this is really, really important if you want to be sending emails at a certain time of the day. You don't care about the date, you care about the time, for example. Or if you want to tell somebody when they got beaten in a dungeon game that you built out in a flow. Very, very important, those 2 use cases equally, right? Good.
Excellent.
Fantastic. So we now have a time date value. The next thing I'll show you, let's do the game properly. Hang on. So we'll go try again. We want to try again. We'll click next. Cool. Okay, sorry, I got it wrong. It was blue, right? I'm going to click blue. Okay, cool. You've beaten the color dungeon, and there's my little blue armor that I get at the end of it. But interestingly, what I don't like about this flow, if I want to see, Daryl, I'm lazy, right? See this? To get, let me show you how I can see what time I did my color dungeon. You ready? Ugh, so much effort. Scrolling, right?
Yeah, just scroll the page.
I don't want to scroll a page, right? Wouldn't it be easier if I could just have this image take up the left-hand side, for example, and the message take up the right-hand side? That'd be brilliant. So that's what we've done in version 2 of the Color Dungeon. If I go debug again, and we do the color dungeon one more time, because we're having a lot of fun here, I can select blue, because we're seeing blue, and then look at that. Off to the right, I can see my text, and on the left, I can see the image. Now, how is that done? That is done. I had so much fun. Can you tell I had a lot of fun building this out? So inside of the flow screen, when we're dealing with screen sizes, there's now the ability to set your component width and alignment. That is done through this new tab up the top right. When you've selected a component, you'll be able to see this style tab. I can't say that I've come across a component that doesn't have a style tab. I'm not too sure yet, standard one. And you'll be able to select the width of the component that you'd like to, how long you'd like to take up the page. So I can have it take up, the 6 out of 12. So it's the page is divided into 12 sections. Both of these are taking up 6 out of 12. 6 out of 12 is one half. They're taking up half a page each. I can make that less if I wanted to. So let's make it really, really thin. I can make it a small box. This is all done without adding a section component. So previously, if you wanted to muck around with width and alignment, or particularly width, you'd have to put it into a section, and then you have to make each section the right size, and then you can put your component in it.
This and kind you of only have 4 as well sections.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Columns. Yes.
Now you can have 12, because they can be a 1 out of 12. So the screen's divided, isn't it, into 12. So you can have 12 of them if you wanted to.
It reminds me a little bit of the. Anyway, I'm going to go way off track again. But yes, you can. You're absolutely right.
You can have 12 checkboxes.
That's right.
Side by side.
Oh, I like that one.
Now, who needs tables? But then there's a problem. What would it look like in mobile?
This is a very, very, very good question you raised there, Darryl. Let's have a look. How would I do that? I have to load that mobile app Oh, hang on a second. No, I don't. If I want to quickly preview and see what this looks like, right now it's in large, which Salesforce explains that large is full width, right? Or a lightning page. Full width lightning page. That's what it looks like on desktop when you got your screen open fully, right? Medium, for example, quick action window here, a little bit smaller. Oh, okay, we're starting to see some problem here with my original design. And then small. This is what it'll look like in my phone app, which I was just about to bring out. But again, if I can't be bothered to scroll, I can't be bothered to load up the phone, right? I'm just going to click this button here, which is great. That is getting very, very, very small. I can't even see what color the little suit that I got is. So look, that's now that I can see that, I'll probably go ahead and make a few design changes. But now I can preview it this way and make those design changes quicker and be able to see sooner rather than later that, hey, perhaps if I'm running it in mobile version, maybe this was the way to go. Hey, that looks a little bit like, what a Game Boy might look like, where you got your image at the top and the text down the bottom. So who knows? Maybe it depends on the platform that I'm running it on. But I can make those design changes a lot quicker now with that preview ability.
So you've covered a lot there, Tim. So we've got the component width. Oh, you didn't show the alignment. So there is alignment there as well.
Good point. So if I go here and I look at my dungeon, perhaps I want to make the text a bit larger. Thank you. Sorry, I totally forgot that. Perhaps I want to make the text a bit larger and stick it in the middle, right? So what we can do is we can go alignment, middle. Look at that. And then I can go in here, change my text. Let's make it 28. Oh, that's what you want. You want big text when you're beating a dungeon, right? So let's save it, debug it, run through that dungeon one last time. We know it's blue, so we're going to select blue. There we go. That's much bigger. That's much better. I feel like I've made an achievement, and I get my blue armor set. Look at that.
Now,
a lot of cool new features.
Yeah, just going back one stage there, you had some visual choices there on the screen. That shield and the other one. Can you show us how you configured those?
I do. I told you, I'm way excited about this whole dungeon thing. I've totally.
I know. I'm here to just bring you back to earth.
Honestly, absolutely ridiculous. These are boring. These are standard choices that we've had before. Except instead of just looking like standard choices, like they always have. So I've got choice blue, for example. Let's open up choice blue. Looks the same. API name, a description that I definitely populated. I've got the label blue. And then choice value blue, and then underneath we can set a customize. We can customize the user interface. So what we can do here, if I was to let's say delete, All right. If I was to delete that icon that I had set up just there and go choose icon as if I'm creating a brand new choice or updating a flow that has choices in the past but didn't have icons, I can add an icon from the SLDS library. Now, this I specifically said it was from the SLDS library because you can't upload your own icons as yet, to my knowledge.
Right. No, you can't.
No. So again, for blue's defensive armor, so it looks like a shield. Let's select the shield, hit save, and then I go done. Now to expose that on the screen, I wanted those buttons to be big and strong, right? So in Visual Picker size, Visual Picker, meet the audience, Visual Picker.
So Visual Picker is a new component on the left. There we are. Yep.
That's right. So this is very like functionally similar to a radio buttons icon. Radio buttons component, except instead of having just text and radio buttons, now you've got these icons, and you can change the size of the icons as well. Just like the preview thing, you got small, medium, and large. So I can make these small. Click out. There they go. Now they're small, or I can set them to medium. I'm just going to set them back to large, nice and strong because we're working through a dungeon. And yeah, so you've now. I think there was some third-party options that did a very, very similar thing. But now it's built in, which is great.
Yeah, there is the third-party one. You're right, and I've used that before, and it does allow you to upload your own images. Because I used that in a mini CPQ sort of flow that I'd built once, and you can actually have the image of the product, and they can select it, and that was really cool for doing that. So maybe we'll get that image capability sometime soon.
Oh, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. The other thing you can do that I didn't point out as well, if you want to have them instead of being left to right and just go top to bottom like this, just change the width. So you can change the width, and it kind of forces it back into alignment. You can play around a little bit, combining those two features, the Visual Picker and the component width. You can do some really creative things.
Well, so we've got component width and alignment in there. We've got the previewing, so we can view the small, medium, and large. Got the Visual Picker. We've got new canvas cards, the horizontal ones that gave us more info. And we've also got data types in there as well. And not forgetting that we've now got the new user interface directly from setup.
And that's barely scraping the surface of all the flow. This was a massive release for Flow. Yeah.
So that's just our favorites, our special ones that we've sort of cherry picked out of that. Well, thank you, Tim. Look, I think we need to hear a bit more of the song. What do you reckon? Just to close off.
Let me just switch up my old microphone.
So while Tim's doing that, I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us today. If you haven't seen our admin features yet, you can have a look at those.
Like a river, structured and clean, breaking down barriers, living the dream. Instant transformations built to last. I'm the flow master, never moving too fast. Reports auto-generate, no more delays.
And if you want to grab hold of that song, go to certifycrm.com, have a look at my blog, and there's an article there about when I made that song with an app called songer.co. They're not sponsoring us yet, but maybe they will one day.
That's it.
I'm sure we can use that song over and over again. And in fact, one of the nice features is once you make that song, they humbug you with a few emails for a while, but eventually they offer you a couple of freebies. So that's how I managed to get the song at no cost. And you've got full rights to it, so you can use it commercially or use it in your socials or whatever you like. So
I like that.
Yeah. And look, I only just put in like a paragraph of text, and it wrote the song. So that and that's not me singing either, Tim. I don't think you've ever heard me sing because that's not something that I do,
So what I'm hearing is you now need to go and send it the song and say, can you make a karaoke version for the winter release?
Oh, that's dangerous. All right. Okay. Well, thanks, Tim. Look, it's been a pleasure again. And here's another release jam-packed full of features. And let's hope that the viewers enjoy this one and they come back and talk to us again when we've got another release to have a look at.
Absolutely. Appreciate you watching. Hope you've learned a lot. Hope you're enjoying and getting very excited with all the new features like we are. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you at the next release. Appreciate it, Daryl. Thank you for jumping on with me.
Good on you. Thanks, Tim. Cheers, mate.
No worries, mate. Take care.